This video is going to piss a lot of people off. I can just imagine the comment section now. Heck, the thumbnail probably has some of you already furiously typing on your keyboard about how I'm trying to kill another MMO. But you're wrong, quite the opposite. I'm trying to save Ashes of Creation. So hear me out before you leave a comment, because you'll likely realize I'm on your side. I just want Ashes to succeed, but if Ashes of Creation goes through with its current design without changing anything, its chart is going to look no different than any other dying MMO today. I don't say that lightly. I know how much copium some of us are sucking in, hoping that Ashes of Creation will be the next MMO to rekindle our love for the genre. Trust me, I'm sucking in more of this stuff than Narc, and he's literally made of it at this point. But there is a massive problem most of you are ignoring, and that problem is you don't like Ashes of Creation. Ashes of Creation in its currently planned design is not made for you. If you are a WoW player, an ESO player, a Final Fantasy XIV player, a Guild Wars 2 player, chances are you're gonna hate AOC once you get past the first few days. Heck, I even asked you guys if you would like a game like AOC, and you said no. I just asked in a way where you didn't know I was asking about AOC. I posed the question like this: how would you feel about an open world MMO with always on PvP that you could never turn off? 82% of you that had an opinion one way or the other said, no way, not for me. And I would wager that the 18% that voted that you would want this, a substantial portion of you have never played an MMO with the AOC's proposed PvP system. And before you say, hey, I have played Lineage 2 or some other MMO where you can kill anyone anytime with a flagging system that turns people purple and red based on how everything transpires, I am well aware a handful of you love this type of PvP. You are the rule 34 of PvP. You are an outlier. Yes, you like it. The problem is almost nobody else does. Ashes of Creation's PvP is a one-to-one replica of the PvP system from Lineage 2. I have played it. I have lived it. I have thousands of hours in that system. It was my first MMO, and I degened it like the disgusting goblin of an MMO fiend that I am. What this means is I know every single problem with this system and how detrimental it's going to be to an MMO that tries to implement it in the modern day. Now, I don't expect you to just take my word for it. So in this video, I'm going to go over those problems and the inevitable effect they will have on the game's performance over time. I will also go over some proposed solutions and ask for you to propose solutions in the comments as well. My goal in this video is not to stifle interest in AOC, quite the opposite. I saw the Archer playtest and I am in love with the world they have created. I want to get lost in that world. I want Ashes of Creation to do well, but I am also painfully aware of exactly why it won't if it doesn't address the problems I'm going to bring to light in the video today. The first and most obvious problem is that Ashes of Creation is an always-on open world PvP game, and 90% of MMO players flat out won't enjoy that. That means right from the beginning, almost everyone that tries this game is sure to not like it. After the very brief stint of starting up and enjoying a few fun levels in the low-level areas in the new world, the PvP will kick in. The griefing will kick in. It's been proven time and time again that MMOs that focus solely on PvP players never achieve more than a niche status in the MMO genre. The best they can hope to do is to carve out a tiny corner of a tiny market for themselves and their players. I think AOC can satisfy both groups. I really do. I think it can satisfy the PvP sweatlords who are happiest when others are rage quitting the game because of them. I think it can also satisfy the PvE players who just want to get lost in a beautiful MMO and come together to take down epic raid bosses, dungeons, and occasionally group up for PvP content when they want to. And I'll go ahead and tell you how I think AOC can achieve this before the video's over. But here's the rub, the inescapable fact that if you're a PvE main in the MMO of your choice, you won't like Ashes of Creation. You won't like when you're trying to level with your friends and a group of sweaty players comes and bullies you out of your spot. Oh, did the community work hard to upgrade a node and unlock a new dungeon? That's nice, but I've seen how that plays out. You won't be allowed inside that nice new dungeon. Sorry, that's gonna be locked down by one of two groups of players. If you're lucky, it's gonna be locked down by the sweatiest, most degenerate PvP guild on the server. If you go inside, they'll grief you until you leave. Griefing is gonna be something that comes up a lot in this video because all the poor, inexperienced players that have never played in this flagging system are under the assumption that they are going to be protected by this flagging system. And this could not be more wrong. You will not be protected by this flagging system. This flagging system is easily abused and circumvented in its current design, and this is my primary reason for making this video. Steven, if you are listening, you cannot recycle this flagging system from a game from 2003 without changing it substantially or adding more systems to protect the players. You must improve upon it to protect the players that aren't griefers, because as you know, griefers not only survive under the system, but they thrive under the system. And I know I'm not going to say anything that Steven isn't aware of. He played this game as well. He played Lineage 2, but he also hasn't addressed these problems publicly. So either he's hoping it's just going to work out, or he's thinking the rest of the game will be good enough to retain players in spite of these glaring flaws. And I'm warning you all now, it won't. It can't be. These flaws cause way too many quit moments daily for most of the players in the game. Now I'm going to explain why, and I'm also going to ask you, the viewer, to help come up with a solution. If you think of a way to improve upon this system to protect normal players from griefers, leave it in the comments below. So back to the scenario we began to describe. If your group is in a dungeon and you're merrily grinding along, the guild that has this dungeon locked down will show up and flag on you. They will not go red on you because generally the punishment for going red is good enough that it prevents players from doing so excessively. I say generally because it's not always effective, but we'll touch more on that later. However, they don't need to go red. They'll go purple. The healer is throwing out big heals, trying to keep the mobs in the dungeon from killing the tank, because if their tank dies, the whole group wipes. And in the process, the healer is burning through their mana supply. The end is inevitable. You don't win this exchange as the group that's mid-pole against a sweaty PvP guild. The PvE group trying to enjoy the dungeon has two options, and both result in them losing. They would likely lose the fight even if they weren't already engaged with NPC enemies, because it's likely the top PvP guild locking down the dungeon. They are sweatier. They don't log out of the game. They are generally the group of players involved in all of the seediest forms of play, meaning they RMT, they bot, they do anything it takes to be the #1 guild so that they can survive and dominate in this always on PvP game. You, the normal player trying to enjoy the dungeon after work, you don't stand a chance in an even fight, but that's not relevant because they're not going to attack while you aren't fighting NPCs. They're going to wait until your tank is mid-pole and picking away at your team's health until NPCs kill you for them. If you fight back, you will go purple, and that is their biggest hope, because if you go purple, they can dispatch you all the quicker as they will unload on your team, which will be caught fighting them and the mobs that the tank pulled at the same time. If you're lucky, you won't be mid-pole when the other team rolls up. At this point, you'll either both stand there until one gets bored and leave, or you'll fight for the spot. It becomes not a battle of wills, but a battle of time. Who is willing to spend their night getting nothing done? Who has more time to waste in the game? And guess what? It's not you, it's them. They are the top guild that is holding this dungeon down because they don't have a life outside of this game. They're on it all day and all night, and they live to make other people quit the game. The more miserable you are, the happier they are. It is a direct correlation for them. You might eventually choose to duke it out, or you might choose to waste their time until you have to sign off for the night, feeling good that they got nothing done, but also knowing you didn't have fun. You just wasted the 3 hours you had to play stalemating with one of the sweatiest PvP guilds in the game. They will do this until you leave the dungeon, and they will keep doing it until you decide not to come back. So you'll go to the second most interesting spot in the game to level with your friends, and guess what? The second sweatiest PvP guild will be locking that down, or the best PvP guild will get bored of their area because no one's going there anymore, and they'll come knocking on your door again, looking for people to grief, hoping to get a quick, uneven exchange where they can kill you while you're mid-pole or outnumbered yet again. And I'm not making this up out of thin air. These are not hypothetical situations. This is exactly what happens. Lineage 2 had the exact same open world design. It had the exact same flagging PvP system to a T. There is nothing different in the design of the PvP and AOC from Lineage 2 from 20 years ago that is going to stop this from happening. The system is inherently flawed. It rewards griefing. It rewards being an asshole. It promotes a style of play that ensures that only one group is allowed to have fun at a time. Now, I said earlier, you'd be lucky if the sweatiest PvP guild on the server was the one locking the dungeon down. And you're probably wondering, why would I be lucky if it's the sweatiest PvP guild on the server? My sweet summer lamb, ripe for the slaughter. You have so much to learn about purple and red flagging systems in an open world. The other option is it's the RMT guild locking it down. The people, often from other countries, who turn playing this game into a job where they sell their drops and their gold for real money on third-party websites. They always have the best gear, they always bot, and they're always reinforced by more bots. They are usually the only ones capable of keeping even the sweatiest PvP guilds out of an area. They will employ all of the dirtiest tricks in the book, including but not limited to the ones I've mentioned so far. They will also have new tricks. They will have characters that they bot up to high levels, specifically for going red on your group if you don't go away. They will run them into the dungeon and log them out there. Anytime you go into that that dungeon to group up and they can't down you by griefing you, they log in their perma red character and kill your healer. Usually quite effectively because this character is decked out. If you do kill it and it does drop some of its gear, they'll pick it up instantly, probably via some bot software that does so faster than any human could ever have a chance to compete against. Yes, this also actually happened. Again, I don't have to make this up, I lived it. And in the off chance you do get a piece of gear, it doesn't matter. They have literally unlimited funds to replace it 10 times over because the game is their job. They are literally selling their excess for real money. The more they keep you down, the more money they make by selling to that sweaty, do anything to win PvP guild on the server. And before you tell me that AOC will be the first MMO in history to not have any bots, please spare yourself the embarrassment. It will. Every MMO has bots. It is, however, possible that AOC does a better job than AAA companies like Blizzard and NCSoft at detecting and eliminating these bots. But even if we achieve this unobtainable bot-free world that you so desire, all of the problems I mentioned about griefing are still there. The flagging system AOC is proposing is not going to work. Lineage 2 was an amazing game in its time, but the genre has evolved. EverQuest, which came out just a few years before, was also an amazing game in its time. Almost no one would play EverQuest now, and almost no one will endure this type of griefing in 2022 and beyond. They'll just quit. You will quit. I repeat, you will quit. AOC will be massive at launch, and we will all watch its player base deteriorate. It will then have a fraction of the income that it needs to put out epic size expansions on par with major MMOs today. The flagging system doesn't work as well as it needs to. It doesn't protect the masses, and it rewards foul play. It creates a toxic culture in the game where the most unpleasant types of personalities survive and thrive. But there are a small percentage of players who enjoy this. Don't worry, I have a solution for you too that will make you sweaty hardcore PvPers happy. My goal here isn't to have the devs create a game that you can enjoy. I am not trying to take away your PvP experience. I am trying to ensure that AOC is popular enough to get massive expansions that keep the game alive and thriving for both the PvE and the PvP players. Make no mistake, if this game is made for the super small subset of MMO players that enjoy this type of content, it will not get exciting expansions on the scale of other MMOs today. Right now, this is being made for PvP Andes who are already a small subset of the already niche community that is the MMO player base. And it's not even made for all PvPers. It's made for the ones who want PvP all the time with no way to turn it off. A microscopic portion of the already tiny MMO community. There aren't enough of you. I'm sorry. Without the unwashed masses that are the PvE gigachads, Ashes will not receive the continued subscription numbers to put out impressive expansions. Right now, AOC is making money hand over fist from those unwashed masses that you PvP players so despise. They are buying this game thinking it's going to be their next World of Warcraft, not realizing it's an always-on PvP grief fest in the making. Oh, you think Asmin or any big streamer is going to enjoy this game? Yeah, right. Those PvP guilds will make sure that every player that streams this game is miserable. They will show up and wipe your group any and every time they please. Streamers will be forced to leave. PvEers will be forced to leave. So please consider you and I on the same team, my PvP brethren. I am just from the future. I have already played this game. I have already seen how this PvP system plays out. I am the lucky ghost of AOC past. But let's continue. The next type of griefing is less important, so I'll keep it brief, but it's probably something that should ideally be addressed. And I'm bringing it up in hopes that we as a community can have a constructive conversation about something that can easily erode the enjoyment of a game like this. That is an open world game where anyone can walk into your dungeon while you're doing it. Anyone can walk into your raid while you're doing it. There's another type of griefing known as training, or rather grabbing a ton of mobs from other parts of the dungeon and then dragging them over to your group and dropping them on you, resulting in your death. Your group was capable of handling the 5 to 10 mobs that they had pulled, but the 20 to 30 mobs that another player just drug over your group is another story. You're going to wipe if the developers don't protect you from this. This is a way that groups grief each other even without having to go purple, circumventing the flagging system entirely. This does not add any positive experiences to the game. It's just another way of rewarding foul play and allowing it to ruin the fun for an entire group of people. My question to you is, what could the developers do to prevent this? What kind of aggro rules could they use to ensure that you can't simply abuse bad AI in this way? How do you prevent one player from wiping any group they want by simply dragging a dungeon's worth of mobs onto them? You can't just make super short leashes because then everyone just skips the dungeon and runs to the end, right? So what can the developers do? And also, what can they do to prevent people from simply griefing you until you leave the cool new dungeon node that was unlocked? Ashes of Creation is going to have two types of PvP. One is the PvP mentioned mentioned here already. The no rules barred open world exchanges between groups of all sizes. Typically, these will not be even matches. The engaging group will make sure they have more players than the group they engage with. They will make sure they have better gear. They will make sure they are higher level, and they will probably make sure that the group they are engaging with is mid-combat with some NPC enemies. The other type of PvP is the more organized and scheduled castle sieges, where guilds sign up to help other guilds defend or attack a castle. This massive scale organized PvP tends to be one that many more players enjoy. It's scheduled, it's all out, and everyone is there to PvP, and there's a lot on the line. Economically, the winning side makes a ton of money, and so there's a lot of incentive to successfully defend or attack these castles. Again, we know this because it's straight from Lineage 2. So I'm going to propose a solution where everyone wins, where the PvPers get what the PvPers want, and the PvEers get what the PvEers want, one of which is to drastically improve their planned flagging system to prevent people from simply circumventing all of its punishments by griefing people until they die.
Perhaps there should be a separate meter that fills up when you attack a white or non-combatant player. This would limit the number of times you could grief an individual that wasn't interested in fighting back. The meter would eventually fill up all the way and turn the player corrupt if they harass the non-combatant player too many times in a defined period of time. This would at least prevent a player from infinitely harassing a player or group who wasn't interested in PvP. It would also limit the number of people's days one player could negatively impact through griefing. I think something like this alone would greatly reduce the amount of ill-intentioned griefing on the server and greatly improve the experience of the average player. Any portion of this meter that is filled by attacking a non-combatant player would be reset if that player decided to attack back. This way, we're not preventing the number of meaningful PvP engagements a player can have, just the number of times a player can grief another player.
This still wouldn't protect the average unwashed masses that are the PvE MMO players, but it would at least be a step in the right direction to mitigating some of the griefing that will inevitably cause all of them to leave. And make no mistake, they will leave, and so will their subscription. And if you didn't know, PvE players prop up massive MMOs. PvE players keep massive MMOs afloat, period. And more realistically, this next thing is probably the best solution, and it's simple. It's effective. It's not reinventing any wheels, and there really aren't any downsides. Perhaps the developers should just consider two types of servers: AOC PvE servers and AOC PvP servers. Let the PvPers that have been furiously listening to this YouTube video with steam coming out of their ears at the mere thought of turning this game into some kind of disgusting Care Bear MMO, let them keep their PvP-centric AOC game just the way it's been designed, but also create a version of this game that will appeal to far, far more players. A version of this game where you can't attack a player unless they've opted into PvP. The PvE servers would still have plenty of PvP content.
PvE servers would still have sieges, wars, caravans, dueling, etc. Tons of opt-in PvP.
But you would not be able to as easily grief other players into quitting the game entirely. You wouldn't be able to ruin other people's dungeon experiences. You wouldn't be able to do the same during raids. Or maybe you do something completely different and you have specific areas that are PvP on and areas that are PvP off on one server. Some nodes are PvP, some nodes are PvE. Some dungeons allow it, some don't. But the fact is, if you don't give the PvE players that have no interest in griefing other people into quitting and have no interest in being the player that is griefed until they quit,
if you don't give these players a way to play the game, or if you don't come up with a better plan to protect them from the bad apples, you're gonna watch as griefers destroy your player numbers. You're gonna watch as the launch is marred with negative headlines and a mass exodus from the game. Players complaining about dying and dropping their loot, players complaining about being camped, players complaining about not being able to go solo in the new cool areas you added, or group in the newly unlocked nodes because they just get griefed when they go to these places anyway. I know this video probably angered a lot of you, but remember, I'm trying to help AOC, not kill AOC. I'm here to stop the griefing. I'm not here to stop the PvP. There's a massive difference there, and I hope that's what you focus on.
I selfishly want this game to succeed so that I can get lost in it for months and for years. I want it to do well so that I can make content about it for months and for years, but I am also a realist. I know that sucking in the copium and pretending that a PvP-centric MMO is going to be just fine and do well is a lie, and I know what's happened to every PvP MMO ever released. Their expansions are small, their lives are short, and their declines often very rapid. And I don't want to see that happen to AOC. There needs to be a version of this game that appeals to and maintains the attention of the PvE player. If not, then I guess there's always that Riot MMO, right boys? Suck down that copium. Sound off in the comments below. I really hope you try to come up with solutions instead of attacks. It doesn't matter how much you hate PvE Care Bears or sweaty PvPers, but if you type out a comment comment with a proposed solution, you could be the person that saves AOC. So go and try, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get a version of this game that PvPers and PvEers alike can enjoy. The purpose of this video is to start a discussion around Ashes of Creation's Achilles heel, the obvious problem and the obvious hill that it's going to have to climb upon its release. And if we talk about it now while it's in its alpha, early alpha, long before it's released, it has a much better chance of making the adjustments needed to appeal to a broader player base and to having better, more filled out expansions as the game goes on. All I want for the game is to have its best chance of maintaining its player base because I love what I've seen so far. I love the world that it's in, and I can't wait to get lost in it. I am not trying to change this into a Care Bear PvE game, and that's why I think maybe one of the best solutions is to leave the game as it was designed for the PvPers that want that hardcore PvP experience always on, and maybe something else, maybe another server for the PvEers. And I know there's going to be a lot of comments from PvPers saying just get good or just don't play the game, and that's fine. That's what a lot of people will choose to do if the game comes out as it's currently designed. They just won't play it. A massive shout out to my YouTube members. Thank you for supporting this channel in the big way that you do and for helping me make the best content that I can. If you want to become a YouTube member, click the join button down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and a subscribe for Algorithm Senpai. And if you're not sure what to do next, check out one of the videos popping up on screen right now.